So today I'm going to be going over the 8 parts of speech. One of the things I want to really emphasize as we're talking about 8 parts of speech is that while you can look up each word in the dictionary and see what its usual part of speech is next to that word in the definition, what we're talking about is not so much that definition as the function that a word has in a sentence. So it's important to be thinking about the word in the context of a particular sentence, more so than thinking about a word all on its own. So the first part of speech we're going to talk about are nouns. And a noun is a person, place, thing, or concept. This is something that's probably pretty familiar to you, probably review. But an example of this in a sentence. Let's say I have a sentence like, I worked on school work. The word work could be an action if I'm talking about doing something. But here it's the actual product that I'm working on, so it's going to act as a noun in this sentence. So again, that points out that idea that I'm talking about, that what we're looking at really is the function within the sentence, more so than just the definition. If I was to look up the word work in the dictionary, it would probably say it's a verb or an action. A couple more examples then. The movie begins with a loud explosion. You'll notice that in this sentence, both the word movie and explosion are things. In the next sentence, the woman on the poster was looking at the faces of the people she saw. Woman, poster, faces, people, all of these are nouns. So nouns, I think, are maybe one of the easier ones to spot in a sentence. And a pronoun is exactly like a noun. It's doing exactly the same function that a noun does. It's just that it's these words that we use as a stand-in for a noun. In English, we typically like to mention something by its proper name once, and then from then on, if we're going to keep referring to it, we like to use the pronoun, the stand-in word, for that thing that we're referring to. So these are words like I, he, she, it, they, we, you. Those are the most typical pronouns. It's also the different forms of those. So for example, I is the same kind of word as me, is the same kind of word as my, although we'll talk about a word like my, which is showing ownership when we talk about adjectives as well. Words like everyone, this, that, all of these are pronouns. Again, they stand in for something that could be labeled specifically with a noun, and so they essentially serve the same function in a sentence as a noun. It's just that they are a stand-in for a particular noun. So let's say I have a sentence like, Wendy worked on schoolwork this week. So I put the word noun there just to kind of point out that we're talking about Wendy. If I wanted to replace Wendy with a pronoun, I would say she worked on schoolwork this week. So that's basically the way a pronoun works. A couple more examples. I bought him a car. I is a stand-in for the first person, whoever's talking. Him is a stand-in for the singular male person I'm talking about who gets the car. That is their only choice. Now here, I'm marking there as a pronoun. In just a minute we're going to talk about adjectives, and it would be correct to mark there as an adjective as well, because there is also talking about which choice which choice it is. So let's save that one and come back to that in a minute. But you'll notice that he and them, again, he is a stand-in for another singular male person. Them is a stand-in for a plural set of people. So here's adjectives then. Adjectives are the words that modify or describe a noun. They tell you something more about a noun. So for example, when back on that previous sentence, Wendy worked on schoolwork this week. The word school there, that could be a noun if I looked at it in a dictionary, and we're talking about the little place that you go to and learn things. But here it's acting as an adjective because it's describing what kind of work she's going to do. It's schoolwork rather than homework, rather than hard work, for example. The word this, again, also is an adjective because it describes which week we're talking about. The word this is also a pronoun. So in this case, its function in the sentence, it's best to call it an adjective because of what it's doing, but the word this is a pronoun for whatever this refers to, in this case, the week that we happen to be in. Let me go back just a second to the pronouns. So again, I said I'd mention there again. So there is a pronoun. It describes ownership that goes back to whoever they are. But in this sentence, there is also acting as an adjective. And an adjective is probably the better label for it because it says which choice, who owns this choice. Choice is really the noun here, and there is an adjective telling you which choice. Let's look at a few more examples here. The biggest television in the store was left on. You'll notice I'm marking the as an adjective. The articles a, an, and the are always going to be adjectives. And they act as adjectives because if I say something like, say, the store is big, there's a difference between the store is big and a store is big. If I say a store, I'm not talking about any particular store, while if I say the store, I clearly am talking about a particular store. So the or a really do modify that word store in the sentence. And so they function as an adjective. Now, biggest, I think, is clearly maybe a little easier to see as an adjective. It's saying the biggest television rather than the smallest television, rather than the friendliest television, which would be odd. I can't imagine a friendly television, but perhaps there is one. Tennis courts are good. Here you've got the adjective tennis for courts, so it's telling you which kind of courts. Again, if I was to look at the word tennis all by itself, I might say, yeah, tennis is a game. I'm going to call that a noun. But in context, in this sentence, it's clearly an adjective because it's telling you which kind of courts. Good is also an adjective because it's telling you how those courts are. They are good courts. So even though it came after the noun courts, it's still functioning to tell you something about the word courts. Verbs then are action words. They're any action within a sentence. Remember that helping verbs like can, could, may, might, must, shall, should, is, am, are, was, were, be, being, will, would. Those are all going to be helping verbs, and they are verbs. They really do count as actions in a sentence. I was very happy when I woke up this morning. So the action in the first part of the sentence is to equate I, the first person pronoun, with what I was, which is happy. And so you'll notice that that was is the action in the first part of the sentence. And then there's a second part of the sentence, when I woke up this morning, telling you the time frame and the activity that I did at the beginning of the morning, which is to wake. So woke is the verb in the first part of that. Woke is the verb in the second part of the sentence, but it tells us what time frame the I was very happy part of the sentence happened in. A few more examples. Shannon goes to the movies. Again, go is what she's doing. The family drove to the coast. Again, drove is what the family is doing. Sam will be going to school after he has finished going to the bus terminal. You'll notice that will be going is a verb with a couple of helping verbs. Will and be are helping verbs. Going is the main verb. And because this is a future tense activity, that's what will and be helps us to see. It's this activity is going to be on the process, in the process of getting to school at some future time, and that future time is going to happen after he has finished the activity of going. So notice that in this sentence, has finished is a verb, but going is actually going to be a noun because it's the activity that he finished doing. While adjectives are words that describe nouns, adverbs function to describe verbs. They help you to tell how or how much something is happening. They're often words like yesterday or today, if they're part of the sentence, just to tell you when an activity happened. So if I say something like, yesterday I went to the store, yesterday tells you how or when I went to the store happened. So yesterday functions as an adverb. Adverbs are also words that tell you how much a adjective might apply. So for example, if I said, that is a very big bus, big is going to tell you something about bus, but very tells you how big. So very would be an adverb. If I say, I usually go to the store, you'll notice that going to the store is my verb. That's my go is the verb. And so usually functions to tell you how often, how frequent the going happens. Words like not and never are always going to be adverbs. So if I say, I am not interested in your excuse, am interested is the verb, but not tells you how I am interested, which is the opposite of being interested. So I am not interested. So here's an example. I worked quickly the whole weekend. So quickly tells you how I worked. So it functions directly by showing us how that action is being performed. Conjunctions then are our connector words. You may remember the old Schoolhouse Rock video, conjunction, junction, what's your function? And the visual metaphor that they were trying to work with there, with conjunction, junction, they had all these trains kind of rolling around. And the idea was that the conjunctions were the linkages between train cars. So a conjunction is a linking word, a word that connects two things. Now it might connect a list. It might be something like, Jack and Jill went up the hill. So and is going to work to connect Jack and Jill together. It might be a word that connects two parts of a sentence. So if I said something like, because Jack and Jill went up the hill, they were able to fetch water. The word because in that helps to connect the first part of the sentence, because Jack and Jill went up the hill, to the second part of the sentence, they were able to fetch a pail of water. So some of the examples of connector words like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Words like however, nevertheless, moreover, although, because, while, when. These ones, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, they're sort of our shortest little conjunctions. They're called coordinating conjunctions because they keep everything that's connected by them at the same level. And they're often referred to as the fanboys. And the reason why they're referred to that is that it's a mnemonic device just to remember what they are. You'll notice that the first letter of each of those can spell out the word fanboys. These are the most common conjunctions that we use in English, and particularly and, but, and or. In fact, the Schoolhouse Rock conjunction junction song says frequently, and, but, and or will get you pretty far. One of the reasons why they're kind of unique is that these 7 words are the only words that you can use in English to connect 2 complete sentences with just a comma. They function pretty similarly to some of these other words, but in terms of how they're punctuated, I can use the word and between 2 complete sentences and only use a comma to connect them. So I could say Jack and Jill went up the hill, comma, and they fetched a pail of water. Both of those are complete sentences. Jack and Jill went up the hill, they fetched a pail of water, but I can use just a comma and the word and to connect them. If you go to the movies, buy some popcorn because that stuff is great. You'll notice we have a couple of connections. Buy some popcorn is really the main sentence here. This if tells you the conditions under which you're going to buy some popcorn. And this because connects why you might want to buy that popcorn. That stuff is great. My weekend was very entertaining, for I worked quickly the whole weekend. Again, you'll notice that I have 2 complete sentences. My weekend was very entertaining. I worked quickly the whole weekend. And as I just said, you can use a comma and a coordinating conjunction, a word like for, to connect these two things together. You'll notice that the word for here really means because. So that's how it's being used here. Prepositions then are locator words. You'll know it's a preposition because it's telling you where something is located in physical space, or it might be telling you where something is located along a timeline, or possibly even the location of meaning. Words like before, after, and during, especially before and after, they can sometimes function as conjunctions. And so one way you know it's a preposition rather than a conjunction is whether it's followed just by a thing, so it's locating in time. So if I said something like before the movie, so before the movie, a thing, a noun. Before the movie, we went home. Or if it's preceding a subject and a verb, so before the movie began, then we're using before as a conjunction to connect the movie began to whatever else we're going to talk about. So before the movie began, we bought popcorn. So we bought popcorn and the movie began are two complete sentences. Once I stick before on the first part, I've made it subordinate to the second part of the sentence. And so it's acting to connect those two. Before the movie, we should go to the restaurant. So you notice that the word to locates the direction that we're going to be going in. The word at locates the restaurant itself. And the word before here locates when this whole sentence, we should go to the restaurant at the mall, when that's going to happen before the movie. Exclamations, interjections are basically exclamations. Words like wow, gosh, golly, yes or no. Most swear words, if you stick it right at the beginning of a sentence, if you slam your hand with a hammer and you scream out a swear word, that's likely an interjection. So, for example, wow, that is a nasty cut. Interjections essentially are they're words that just don't fit with the rest of the sentence. They don't fit with the functions of the rest of the sentence. They are sometimes, again, words like gosh or ouch, things that don't really have any meaning in and of themselves except to exclaim. So here's just an example sentence. It has 7 of the 8 parts of speech. I left off interjections because it didn't really go with this sentence, but it has all the other 7 parts of speech. And you'll notice that I have the word water in here several times, a bunch of times. It's kind of goofy. And the reason why I'm doing that is on purpose. I want to again point out this idea that you have to look at the context. So if I go through this sentence, right at the beginning, this first use of the word water, that's a noun, right? So that is a thing that is in that water hose. So that makes the adjective for this word water, the water. So we have adjective and noun. You'll see this in the water hose. In is obviously a preposition, right? So it's saying where the water is located. And so what is it in? It's inside of the hose. So hose is really the noun here, which means I can kind of work back from this and say, well, water here isn't so much a thing as it is a descriptor for hose. It's telling you which kind of hose we're talking about. And the is also telling you which hose. So we've got adjective, adjective, noun. Watered, then, is what this water is doing. So watered has got to be my verb. The lawn is what's being watered. So again, lawn is going to act as a noun, and the is telling you which lawn we're talking about, the lawn rather than a lawn. So adjective, noun. This whole second part of the sentence, it needed watering, is being connected to this first part of the sentence, the water in the water hose watered the lawn. So that makes because a conjunction. Now, it seems kind of like a noun. It's referring really to that lawn, but we don't want to refer to the lawn by saying because the lawn needed watering. We don't want to say lawn again. I don't know why exactly. It just doesn't seem right. So I'm going to say that it then, because it still means the lawn, it must be a pronoun. Needed is what's happening. It's the thing that it is doing. It is needing something. So needed is going to act as a verb in this sentence. Now, watering here, it could seem like an action, but I'm not actually doing it. I'm not actually watering anything within this part of the sentence, within the it needed watering part of the sentence. So instead of it acting as an action, it's actually acting as an activity, a thing that could be done. And so it acts in this sentence as a noun. So again, you'll notice that the word water in its different forms is coming in as a noun, it's coming in as an adjective, it's happening here as a verb, and again as a noun. And again, that we only see that by looking at the sentence itself, not by looking up the word water, for example, in a dictionary. In a dictionary, they will probably list all these different functions, but you have to look at the examples, look at how it's functioning in the sentence to see how it works. Okay, let me know if you have any questions on any of this as you continue this unit.